I would say, recognition as he definitely should have got. So when this opportunity came about, it was very interesting. I said, well, I have to do this play.
Welcome to This Week at the NCPA. And when it concerns theatre, really one of the doyens of theatre for me is this man, Sunil Shanbag. And it's wonderful that he has a brand new production out. This is at the Experimental Theatre, 19th of October. There's one showing, 7:30 p.m. 20th of October, two showings, 4 in the afternoon and then followed by 7:30 p.m. Tickets are live now as we speak on Book My Show. It's an NCPA presentation in collaboration with Arpana, which is his theatre company, supported by Bajaj Beyond. Many, many thanks for our corporate sponsorship help. Barricade is the play that we're about to discuss. Hi, Sunil. How are you?
Very well, Hrishi. Very lovely to see you after a long time. I hope all's been well.
All's been well, Sunil. And as let me return the compliment. Always wonderful talking to you and meeting you. So this is the Utpal Dutt.
Yes, the very same.
Wonderful. I know for a while he was with Shakespeare, and then he found communist leanings and he started writing, a lot of plays with the ideology therein. And then, of course, the shift to Bombay happened where there were all these commercial films that he did. But talk to me first about him as a playwright, the lesser known side of him.
Well, so Utpal Dutt worked essentially in Bengali. You are right, absolutely. His early training and exposure in theatre was, in fact, with Geoffrey Kendall, deep into Shakespeare. And at some point, his work and his thinking turns, political. And then he becomes known for some amazing work, actually. He starts by, these large proscenium productions, very spectacular productions, all in Bengali. And then he believed that, theatre, he actually stated it very clearly that theatre for him was a means to talk to large numbers of people. He even used the word propaganda at a time when, it wasn't so problematic to use that term for the arts. And he actually was quite clear that, theatre needs to address the largest number of people. He would scoff at the idea of playing to a small number of people. He said that's all indulgence. It has to be a mass communication. So, in fact, that is why he also then moves from proscenium theatre, which is, slightly the more Western style of theatre presentations, to Jatra. And he performs large plays at Jatra where, 2,000, 3,000 people are watching at a time, maybe more. Wrote about 15, 16 Jatra plays and was also very, very successful in that circuit. Now, the interesting thing is that two things. One is that, not many of his plays got translated out of Bengali. So, which meant that even though at that time I'd heard, in my younger days, I'd heard of Utpal Dutt and his work, but we had no access to it, none of it. And the other thing is that, future generations only got to know about Utpal Dutt through his work in cinema. And not all of it great cinema, he did all kinds of roles. And mostly, these kind of sort of comic roles that he loved playing. And so actually Utpal Dutt, the playwright, in a sense, outside of Bengal, didn't find the same, I would say, recognition as he definitely should have got. So when this opportunity came about, it was very interesting. I said, well, I have to do this play.
Wonderful. It's translated into Hindustani from the Bangla by Asad Hussain.
That's right.
And from the English translation by Anandulal. So Anandulal first did the English translation and from that comes the Hindustani translation. Yes. It's interesting that Barricade is set during the German elections of 1933. And I imagine Utpal Dutt found enough resonance at the time he was writing this play, yes. With what happened in 1933 in Germany. So it's quite fascinating. And in a way, it still is a powerful allegory of our times, isn't it?
It is. In fact, he was responding for more or less the same reasons in 1972 in West Bengal, the situation. This is, post the upheavals, the whole Naxalbari movement had been sort of put down, and there was a series of governments coming into play, and there was president's rule, election would follow election, that kind of thing. And his theatre responded to its time. So extremely well-read person, great understanding of history. And I think he spoke and read German fluently. So he finds a moment in German history that he feels resonates with his time, when Hitler was using the electoral system essentially to take over the country. And then what follows is really the history that we know about, because then it leads to the World War and things like that. But the prior to the war situation, the situation was very, very, very tense. And that's really where he set the play. So all the characters are German, all the situations are German, except that the play is in Hindustani, so that access through language is there.
An honest journalist, a corrupt newspaper editor, Nazi officials, an upright judge, and the detached intellectual. Might I add one of the most dangerous animals, the detached intellectual.
Absolutely.
So it must have been interesting putting this whole motley crew together. So who do we have as actors, Sunil?
Well, interestingly, because these, if you look at them, they seem to be types. And there's always the danger with types that they would be two-dimensional.
True.
But this is the brilliance of Utpal Dutt's writing, that each of these characters has a nuance. So while watching, you're not going through the experience of watching a two-dimensional character. They just represent something. It's really a human being going through some kind of a journey in her or his life at the same time. So that was fascinating. You see, as I said, Utpal Dutt's productions were spectacular, and Barricade was no exception to that. But of course, for us, it was not possible to mount it at that scale. The kind of theatre we do, it's difficult to run a play and mount it at that scale. So I decided to use an ensemble approach. Over the last 7-8 years, we've had lots of young, actors working with us, both at Arpana and at Tamasha Theatre. And I thought this would be a wonderful opportunity to create an ensemble of about 12, 13 really, promising young actors, and work over an extended period and create this production. So it's an ensemble-led production. There are no names as such being cast, but all these people have been around working for 5-6 years, and I think they're all ready for a major takeoff in the next couple of years. So it's a very talented group of actors. There's a wonderful designer, Shayanti Salvi. Costumes have been done by Marvin D'Souza. Amazing group of young people who have put this thing together.
I actually know Shayanti as a potter.
Yes.
She does some really exquisite pottery. I was introduced to her by her husband, by Kunal, who himself is a fine actor.
Absolutely.
So I didn't know that she does stage design. So when I saw her name on the credits, I said, wow.
Well, I saw her design in a production that Quasar had directed. I saw the show this year, but it must have been on. It's been on for about a year now, called Lungs. And I loved the minimalist quality of what she had done, on stage. And that's when I approached her and I asked her if she would be interested in working on this. And she was more than enthusiastic and a wonderful support, not just as a designer, but even just someone who supports an idea. Yeah, so it's been really great working with her.
So now, obviously, these characters find their lives changed by a series of events, one of which is the powerful burning of books at the Humboldt University in Berlin, and all the political violence that followed post the German elections of 1933. Let me ask you in this manner, which would you think is one of the most colorful characters amongst these?
Oh well, all of them are very, very colorful and very nuanced. But I would think two people really stand out in terms of the writing. One is, as you mentioned, the detached intellectual, Dr. Strubel, who's so comfortable and so proud of his detachment and how that crumbles eventually. So that transformation is wonderful. The other character who stands out is, Mrs. Zauritz, who's the widow of the senior, he's a kind of a middle of the road, left-leaning leader who's been murdered, and the chain of events gets set off because of his murder, and the Nazis blame the communists for it, etc. So Zauritz is a very kind of upright Catholic woman, with those set of values. And her transformation through the play, from where she begins to where she really becomes very, very powerful towards the end. She takes a very, very clear stand in favor of justice. So I think these two characters really hold, in a sense, the narrative together. And then there are a whole bunch of other colorful characters, of course. There are communists, there's a journalist, there's a newspaper editor who we will find amazing resonances with, the connection between power and the media, So he's exploring all these nuances, which are, in a sense, we are also living out many of these things today.
You can actually use a code if you're a student, and you can avail a 20% student discount. The code is NCPA STU20. NCPA STU, short form for student, 20 the numerals 20. So NCPA STU20, if you type in together and book my show, you will get a 20% student discount. What to you is very special about this particular space, the experimental theatre, as opposed to Tata or Jamshed Baba or some of the other theatres in the complex?
Well, so we've had a connection through Arpana before that theatre unit from the very, very early days of the NCPA. We must have been, when I was working with Satyadev Dubey, we must have been one of the first few groups that actually performed in the Tata Theatre. Now there was a little theatre and there was the Tata Theatre. And it's interesting, Tata Theatre now is a venue for big productions. But at that time, we did all our experimental theatre work at the Tata Theatre, and 400 odd people would show up, to watch a play. So it began there, and I remember being part of a meeting that had been called by the NCPA of theatre makers to when they were planning the experimental theatre, and they wanted to hear from the community what kind of theatre they would sort of like to have. And so that very, very kind of early moment, there has been a connect with the experimental theatre. I particularly like the two spaces I really love at the NCPA are the experimental theatre and the Jamshed Bhaba. I love the Jamshed Bhaba too. It's a big space, but it's very alive, and a play does well. We have a saying in the theatre community: spaces that work and spaces that are difficult spaces. These are two places where it's very hard to fail. There's something very warm, and a play works in these spaces. So I'm really looking back to coming to the experimental theatre after a long time. In fact, it's been several years.
Lovely. 19th of October, a 7:30 p.m. showing. 20th, there are two shows, 4 in the afternoon, 7:30 in the evening. This is Barricade in Hindustani, an NCPA presentation in collaboration with Arpana, supported by Bajaj Beyond. Play originally written by the great Utpal Dutt and is directed by the wonderful Sunil Shanbag. Tickets are live now at Book My Show as well as at the venue. Please go get them. Sunil, as always, such a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you in person very soon.
Thank you very much, Rishike. Thank you. And thank you to the NCPA for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
These one-woman shows are kind of like the training ground for something as big as that. So because I've been performing for 10 years now, but I only started my one-woman shows this year in Feb. So I said, okay, let me just take 2 years or 3 years and do like tours around the country, around the world.
Welcome to This Week at the NCPA. Very pleased to let you know that Jamie Lever is going to be at the NCPA for the very first time. If you're a fan of hers, this is an evening you have to attend. 26th of October at the Tata Theatre, 7:30 in the evening. It's a 150-minute performance. The tickets are live now at Book My Show as well as at the venue. It's a stand-up comedy show, an NCPA offstage presentation in collaboration with Show People, supported by Bajaj Beyond. We thank our corporate sponsors. Really, entertainment and the arts needs corporate sponsorship. Hi Jamie, how are you?
Hello, I'm great. Thank you. So nice to talk to you once again.
Yeah, and I'm so happy. I mean, it's such a momentous occasion. I mean, this is a theatre that all of us have been frequenting since we were kids, whether it's the Tata Theatre or Experimental or the Little Theatre, Jamshed Baba. And I've only been an audience member. I can't even imagine what it must feel like for you to get on stage, wow, hallowed stage for the first time to perform. How does it feel?
Wow, it is huge. It is a huge moment for me in my life, in my career. Obviously, NCPA theatre has prestige attached to it. It's such a proud moment, I think, for any artist, because it's a theatre that's hosted many acclaimed performances and legendary artists, and it feels great to be one of the artists performing there. I have performed there earlier though. Yes, I have made appearances. I've done like a musical earlier once, and I was playing one of the characters. I've also performed at my dad's show, Johnny Lever Live. But that was again like a 30-minute performance, or like just a appearance and a couple of scenes here and there. So it's a huge thing for me to have my own show at the NCPA. So I'm feeling really happy.
Lovely. And your fans, can they look forward to the usual Jamie Lever distinctive humor? Are you going to do some impersonations? Are you going to do your singing routine? Tell us what we can expect.
Yeah, so obviously, you've seen me on social media, and people love my impersonations and they love all the mimicry that I do. So 100% that has to be a part of my show. But because it is a 2-hour, 15-minute show, so there has to be a lot more than just that. So there's a lot of impersonations. There's a lot of different characters that I play on stage. There's yes, a musical bit that I do, because I love Asha Bhosle ji. So how can I not? Along with Asha ji, there's going to be Usha ji, there's going to be Ila Arun ji, there's going to be Sunidhi. So there's going to be a lot of different artists that you will see will pop up here and there as a part of my sketch, as a part of my act, as a part of my material. So yeah, I feel like this is a complete masala show. It's a tadka masaledar show, and I always tell people that just come and have a blast. Come with your family, because this is the one show that you can bring your parents along, you can bring your dada, you can bring your children along. So yeah, I feel really proud that we've been able to kind of create a show like that.
I've been doing these interviews for NCPA for a while now, and the idea is to always try and support the arts.
Yeah.
Especially non-film arts, because film has its own ecosystem. It's easy to promote. It promotes itself. And every time there's been a stand-up show, we've always had an age warning. I think this is the first time ever that this is a clean, universally enjoyable humor show, family-friendly show. So really, you can bring your kids, like Jamie said. You can bring your parents, your grandparents, which is more than what I can say for anybody else currently in the stand-up scene, with all due respect to all the other comedians. So please come and make it a family favorite evening for you guys. Now, as far as rehearsals are concerned, is there still something you leave improv for the night? Or are you such a detailed workaholic that you will research everything before you go in? There's no harm in either approach.
No, there is no harm. I mean, there's a lot of homework that we do, because there's a lot of acts that we present which require rehearsals, which require a lot of musical rehearsal, a lot of dance practice. Because it's not just a ordinary stand-up show. I won't call it ordinary, not like your typical stand-up shows that we see in clubs these days, where people are talking, which is also an amazing art form. But then the stand-up that we do, which is Johnny Lever ke gharane ka stand-up, where there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of physical comedy involved. So that requires a lot of practice, a lot of prep, and we did about 3 months of prep to create the material for the show. But at the same time, there's always that little space for interaction with the audience, where people will sort of randomly scream out something, or there'll be one person laughing like crazy. So I like to interact with people like that. I like to talk to people, and I like to respond. So I always leave that one space for anything impromptu to happen. But I feel like that's really not my strength so much as the other stuff is. But yeah, I'm trying to kind of play around a little bit more now. So it's fun.
And are there going to be some live musicians for the singing, a band or half a band? Or are you going to do singing -1 or a cappella?
No. There's a band that we travel with. My dad also travels with the same band. We have 2 or 3 people who assist us, and it's just a part of the comedy act. It's not like a separate thing. But when they come in, when they join me, in my act, it's just a complete surprise for the people. So they're just like, whoa, what just happened? So we have those little bit of surprise moments here and there in the whole show, which people really, really enjoy.
It's not easy doing 150 minutes. It's kind of like they say, one of the most difficult things to do is running around, jumping around, and singing.
Yeah.
It requires a certain amount of breath control.
Yeah.
And these days, even to do comedy, you have to be physically fit.
100%.
My God, if you're going to be
100%.
singing and performing and doing what you're doing. So would you advise that for all young comedians and young performers, that gone are the days when you could have a couple of drinks and get on stage? You've got to be physically completely at the top of your form.
I feel like you do, because I've seen you growing up. I've seen my dad, and I see how serious he is and how disciplined he is, especially when there's a project coming up or a show coming up. he'll completely cut down his scarves, he'll walk around the house, he'll be doing his weird exercises, and that's a whole new comedy act in my house. But he'll be doing his, like one leg jumps and langadi and whatever his exercise that he's created, which work for him. And I've kind of taken, those things. I'm like, no, I definitely need to be have good stamina, endurance, to be able to manage my breath while I'm dancing and singing, and also, impersonating different people. So I believe in, just staying fit before the show, and in general also. And for us, it's like work is worship, right? So we treat it like a holy thing. So definitely stay away from anything that harms your body, and just treat it like.
So will we see the great man, or will we see your brother, some of the levers making an appearance, or is it a surprise?
Not on the show, because they are just pure audiences. But I said, because we're doing it at the NCPA, I've requested my family. I said, you've got to be there. It's a proud moment for me. So just come, sit back, watch and enjoy. So I think you might just see my dad. He might just pop in for a bit.
Lovely, lovely. So all you Johnny Lever fans, you know where Sir is going to be on the 26th.
Oh no.
But really, all these years of comedy, I mean, you've had the biggest inspiration at home. And your father's really kept up with the times, there's no doubt about that. But comedy itself has undergone a sea change.
Oh, yeah.
And there must be other comedians, apart from your dad, who you've kind of found inspiration in. Would you like to name some of your other favorite comedians?
Yeah, presently, there are a few comedians that I've been watching. In fact, before my show started, before I started touring, I went to watch Akash Gupta's show at the Baba Theatre, and I was blown away. What a guy. And he's also a great performer. So he does, like he's got like these sketches and these acts that he does. And they were phenomenal. So I was really inspired by that. I watch a lot of comics online. I watch Gaurav Kapoor. I really enjoy his humor. Very sarcastic, very witty. We love Amit Tandon at home. Like my dad loves him. Really admires his work. In fact, Amit sir invited my dad over for one of his shows, and my dad really had a great time. So yeah, all of these new upcoming comics, and I've been watching them. But at the same time, I grew up seeing a lot of Umar Sharif Saab's comedy. I love his comedy. I love Umar Sharif Saab, and his, he had a lot of like these dramas that he did in Pakistan, which were so funny. Like you could not help yourself but fall off the chair. Extremely funny. And Moin Akhtar Saab, also phenomenal Pakistani comedian. Within our country, I love Kapil Sharma's spontaneity on stage. Nobody can beat his spontaneity. So that's again very inspirational. And of course, how could you miss my dad? I've been for his shows, and I was like, what is he doing? Like, what is this craziness? But now it's like when we work together, and I tour with him. I've done about 250 plus shows with him. Every show is like masterclass for me. I'm just like, wow, if I can get there someday. So, and yes, I've really enjoyed my time. I've like learned so much from all of these artists.
Well, Jamie, I have to certainly say that whenever I see pictures, I mean, because I follow you on Instagram, and I see pictures of your stage shows.
Yeah.
You've got your fash bang on, huh? With your pink jacket.
Yes.
And sometimes your yellow trousers with your yellow jacket.
Yes.
You're able to carry off that flash really beautifully. So do you have like a stylist who picks things out for you, or is it all self-done?
Yes. I really wanted to make sure that I'm wearing some Indian fabric. So it's all brocade. It's got that Indian design to it. And I was like, no, it's got to be an Indian fabric. But I feel most comfortable in a suit, in a blazer and pants. So I thought, let me, wear like a Western thing, but at the same time, bring that little Indian thoda sa culture hamara, bring that out through the fabrics and the colors. So yes, I do have a stylist who helps me create my looks for each of my shows. And I do like a dress change also. So when I come on with a different, like post the interval, when I change my outfit, everybody's like, "Arey wah, ye kya hua?" So yeah, I really enjoy that. And I've made sure that, we really kind of work on that, on my look.
In that aspect, despite you being from the modern generation, the comedy is wonderful because it's a beautiful amalgamation of the past as well as what Gen Z enjoys. So you bring bits of the past as well as the current.
Yes.
So people love to see you live because you love a live audience. But nevertheless, you've got to agree that having your own OTT special is something that, goes a long way in creating a fan base.
Absolutely.
Is there an OTT special around the corner? Is there something you can reveal? Are you filming for something? Are you in the planning stages of something? Your fans would love that.
Yeah, definitely in the planning phase. I think these one-woman shows are kind of like the training ground for something as big as that. So, because I've been performing for 10 years now, but I only started my one-woman shows this year in Feb. So I said, okay, let me just take 2 years or 3 years and do like tours around the country, around the world. I will be touring the UK next year. I will be doing a USA tour next year. I'm also touring Australia. So a couple of countries like that. I'm going to cover all the places as much as possible. And then once I feel confident enough that I've got enough experience and confidence, then I will probably, take my time off and then shoot an OTT special. So yeah, that's definitely on the cards. And I think it's for, any comedian, it's a goal for us to get there at some point in our careers. So that is happening. But while I prep for that, there's also a lot of other projects that I'm doing. I'm shooting for a web series that comes out next year on Amazon. I'm also shooting for another project, which all of this I can't say a lot about.
Yeah, obviously, because you're made to sign these agreements, no, where you're not supposed to before the embargo date or whatever it is.
But yeah, so I'm also filming a lot at the moment. So I'm like, let me just do my shows, film, and then maybe a year later I could.
That is terrific. That means you're in no hurry, and the best work comes out when you're in no hurry.
Yeah.
Because I'm very honestly, if you send out a pilot of a Jamie Lever show even today to a Netflix or an Amazon or a Sony Live or a Z5, I'm sure they'd bite. But what you're saying makes so much sense. Travel the world, take in more experiences, play to more audiences, and then when the Jamie Lever show happens on whichever OTT platform, it'll have all the rough edges polished off.
Yes,
lovely.
Absolutely.
26th of October, guys, 7:30 p.m. at the Tata Theatre. Tickets will go out fast. There are lots and lots of people who love Jamie. So go get them now. They're live at Book My Show as well as at the venue at the NCPA. Thank you very much. Wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you so much. Lovely chatting with you again. Thank you for doing this.
See you soon. Bye.
94.3 Radio 1.